Welcome to Game Film, where we dive deep into the minds of advisors and industry leaders. In each episode, we uncover the stories behind their victories and achievements, offering you invaluable insights and lessons to help you grow and succeed. So, sit back, relax, and let's roll the film.
Welcome to Game Film. This is Jordan Hutchison, and my guest today is Justin Castelli. Justin, how's it going, man?
It's going great, Jordan. I'm excited to be here. I love the name and the concept behind the podcast.
The concept worked out well with Game Film was, and you'll know this too as an athlete, when we roll the tape back and play things back and look back at successes or decisions of like why we made that choice or why we're on the path we are now. That's one of like my favorite things because that's how we learn. Mm-hmm. And so that's a very, very short, like brief way, but that's where the idea came from of game tape, game film with looking back and how can we all learn? And right now today, how can our listeners learn from what you're doing and have that opportunity to grow as well? The first question that I always like to open it up with is, and I'm very curious about this question because I know you're a very insightful person when it comes to music. We were talking a little bit about that earlier. If you were coming out on stage to speak, which you do many times, what would be your come out song or your hype song if you're playing sports or coming out to speak? What would that song be and why?
I love this question. It would be J. Cole's Middle Child.
Okay.
And the reason behind that is, first off, it's higher energy. It would get kind of people excited. But the reason I really love it is that he talks about being the middle child in hip hop. Like he knows the OGs of hip hop, but he also knows the younger guys. And as I looked at myself over the years, because I've thought about this question before, I have always found myself in a position where I've been in the business long enough, 20 years, to where I know older advisors who have been doing it for a long time. And I believe I've done a good enough job to have earned their respect that I can sit at the table with them and have a discussion and kind of pull the wisdom and knowledge from them. But I'm a young soul, and like the people that I identify with are actually younger than me. Like my best friends, some of them are in their 20s and 30s, which is wild. I'm 43, but yet I'm hanging with them, and that's who I identify with. And so I can bring some of this wisdom from above and share with them, but I can also bring this new energy, these new ideas from the younger generation and try to, get the older generation to identify with as well. So I find myself sitting in the middle. So that's like the original, but I just look at different things where I am kind of like a bridge. So
right.
Like what I'm interested in now and like bringing more spirituality and more woo and more personalization to finance has not always been what our profession's been about. So I'm the middle between the super, super woo folks and then the traditional financial planning folks. And I'm sitting in the middle trying to bring the two together. So Middle Child would be the song.
I love the depth of that, and that's why I was so excited to hear your answer to that question because I knew that it wouldn't be just nothing wrong with some of the traditional like AC/DC or a very typical like rap song or whatever. I wanted the depth of it, and I think there's a lot of value in that because we're in that shift, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. You use a great term, woo, because we actually as a company just did like strength finders and things like that. And that's one of those words that most people initially are like, what in the hell does that even mean? And it's so fitting because our industry is such a different like lens of where, if it doesn't fit into this old way of doing it, why are we doing it? Like, why are you trying to change something? And that's one thing that I think you have a good vision and you're insightful in where we're going. And so that's why I'm excited to dig in with it. But you've had a great career. You said 20 years. God, it doesn't even feel that long because I've known of your work for a while, but time flies. You've got 3 things that I know of like that are really big that are going on. But I always love asking this question because it's just unique how we all fall into the industry. But how did you get into financial services?
I love telling the story, especially to younger advisors, because I think at least when I came out of college, it was like, you've got to find the perfect spot. Yeah. First and foremost, I went to college to play basketball, Division III school. My initial plan was to go to law school. So I had majored in econ, but at like a liberal arts school, I think I only had a couple of finance classes. One that I remember, and I got a C in it. I had no interest in it. And so I met my wife going into my senior year and realized, all right, I don't want to go to school for 3 more years. So I graduated with no job lined up. Like I could have been down a totally different path, struggling through life because I graduated and had nothing lined up. And thankfully, my parents were able to put me in a position where I didn't have to find a job real quick. And I spent that summer kind of networking. And that's where I found out about financial advisors. So I liked the idea of helping people, having control over my schedule, and obviously the potential to make a good living. So I just went around and dropped off paper resumes at different firms. And to shorten the story up, I ended up at an insurance-based firm. And I stayed there about a year. And that's where a lot of us start off, because there's lower barriers to entries. Bring your 100 names, and let's see if you sink or swim. And I learned that I didn't want to use the title financial advisor and what I thought that meant to sell insurance. Nothing wrong with insurance, and that's a part of what we need to do, but it's not what I wanted to do. And also there was some things that happened. The firm's main insurance company that they worked with, they shift to another one, and there's like 2 weeks that we couldn't work while they held on to the GA's license. And I was getting ready to get engaged. So I was like, I need to find a new gig. And I went and worked at Chase Bank for a year as a personal banker, with the plan of going to be a financial advisor at a branch, but realized I could not be in a branch. Like, I had too much freedom right out of college to go into a branch every single day and be in a small little office. And then also being, forced to upsell and do other products. So I was there for a year, got married, moved into our first house. And then I landed at a 403B company, which is where I really became a financial advisor. It's where I began to understand the business. I got my CFP designation, and then really began to fall in love with the profession. So like, it took probably 5 or 6 years before I actually loved being an advisor and saw the potential, and also learned that I was going to have to go out on my own one day, because I didn't like the pressures of corporate life, even though I feel like I didn't really succumb to them, because I'm not a rebel, but I'm not just going to do something because you tell me to do something. Like, I'm going to do what I think is right. So I knew I had to go out on my own. Planned, kind of did an informal survey with clients. Do you view me working with the company, with you, just to see if I went on my own, would people follow me? Had enough that I was ready to go, saved up enough money. I told my wife, I'm going to save a year's worth of income that we don't have to touch any other savings to do this. And last minute pivoted to go work at a firm in town as a succession plan. And as you can see, the succession plan didn't play out. So I was there for 2 years, and then was kind of forced out, but I was ready to leave anyways, and launched my firm back in 2015. So I love that story, because I think that is the story that most people coming in to the profession and will be financial advisors will go on. It might look different, but I think, financial advisor or planner is a very vague term, and there's different ways to do it. And you don't know what's the right way for you until you get some experience. So I had to experience all those different versions of an advisor to figure out who I wanted to be and how I wanted to work with clients. So that my advice is, if you find out you're not at the right place, you didn't do anything wrong. It's all part of the journey to get the experience to land where you're supposed to. And I'm still evolving and learning new things.
That's so well said. And I love that you mentioned, like, you got to go on some of those paths to figure out what you don't want to do, what you want to do. And I think that a lot of people going in the industry think that there's just one path. Like, I'm going to go be an advisor, and I'm like, no, there's like fintech, there's the planning, you can go an investment path. Like, there's so many other directions you could go that are needed.
HR, marketing, creative director, like there's so many places. And I do think our profession is one of the most impactful professions out there. I think doctors might be up there with us, maybe attorneys, depending on what kind of trouble you might get yourself into or like get accused of. But like, we are there with our clients through the thick and thin, and for years and years and years, and help them live a great life. Like, I can't think of very many professions that has that much impact, and you don't have to be the advisor to be a part of that. There's all those other pieces that we need, which I hope people don't lose sight on. And like, oh, if I'm not going to be advisor, then finance not for me. Far from the truth.
I'm in full agreement, and we're going to talk more about that, because in my mind, that's perfect for a question I want to ask later about like where we're going. One thing I do want to set like the standard for is tell everyone the name of your firm, because I, as a father of 2 kids, and am very, like, one of the things, my favorite identities is being a dad and being a father. And so I want you to definitely tell people like your firm name and like where it originates from.
So the firm name is RLS Wealth, which you don't know this, but I'll share something with you about the name. So RLS is Roman, Leo, and Silas. When I launched my firm, I mentioned I was kind of forced out. I had everything lined up except for a firm name, and I didn't know what I was going to call it, and I needed to get things going. So I just named it RL, Wealth Management, because Roman and Leo were the only ones there, and Silas came along later.
Yeah.
So I rebranded it as RLS Wealth. And I love it because it is the boys, and like family is everything to me. My boys are everything to me. They have been a big part of all of the content I create over the years. And it just felt right. But what you don't know is I'm actually in the process of rebranding the name, and RLS is going to go away. Technically, RLS Wealth will be the legal name, but I'll have a new DBA.
Okay.
That the DBA is going to be Santiago.
Okay.
Which I'm really excited about. And it will make more sense as we dive into life planning and some of those other things. But Santiago is the main character of The Alchemist, a very important book. I have him, a representation of him tattooed on my arm. But I'm going to actually change the name here in the next month or so to Santiago. And the boys say that they're not happy with that, but I've never seen them actually care about the name of my firm. So legally it'll still be there, but no one will see that after a while.
Well, I love having that we're getting some surprise news like pulled out on on here, but I mean, it's still there. And I even in our conversations before this, and in anyone that's met you or heard you speak, they know how like important that is. And I think that it's still a part of it. And some of the other stuff we were talking about too, like if they get the opportunity to work with you is awesome. But no, I love that. And I love that there's always love the narrative or story behind stuff. And so it just has so much more meaning to it. But, to start us off on that side, behavioral economics became a thing. You know, it's been around for a while. I mean, the research, and I studied some research that's been around since like the 70s and 80s, and even going back farther than that. But the term like life planning, I think is there. We all know like George Kinder, and you have your CFP, your RLP, you have, tons of like designations that are tough to get. Both of those alone are very time consuming and difficult to get. But explain to me how you would define life planning, because I think he might have coined that term originally or brought it to light, but I think it means something different to all of us. And I'm very curious to hear like how you would define that.
Yeah. To me, life planning is all about putting the life at the center of the planning. I think when I think of traditional planning, I think it's all numbers first. Yes, we might ask questions about your goals, but like for the most part, we as advisors haven't been trained to actually go deeper. For some reason, which makes sense now, I've always tried to go deeper with clients. Like I never settled for the first answer. I wanted to know why. I wanted to get more behind it. Right. And that was just naturally kind of how I went things. And then I found out about life planning shortly after I launched the firm, thanks to Scott Frank. And I just got my RLP designation, technically in January. I finished the last of the trainings I had to go to. So for me, it's all about putting the human first, putting the life first. And for me, I like the EVOKE process that Kinder created is the foundation of the work that I'm doing now and going forward. So EVOKE is a part of what I'm doing. I have come up with this idea of the authentic life. And it's not like the authentic life is not, I don't think it's an original idea, but the way I view it and the way I want to try to help people find it is, I think, unique to me. So for me, life planning is deeper than just the life at the center. It is helping people find their own authentic life, become the true authentic version of themselves, and then build everything around that. So life planning at its core, human first, put the client at the center of the plan and build around it. But for me, taking it to the next level and kind of making it like remixing it to be my own, it's using the EVOKE process to help people tap into the life they really want to live. The authentic life is, for me, it's the life I believe we were created to live. I think we all have some higher power we believe in that created us and gave us unique gifts and talents to bring to this world. And if we can figure out what those are and how we're supposed to use them and how we're supposed to use those to serve people, then I think we start walking in our authentic version of ourselves. We live an authentic life. And I think if you can find that, a lot of things kind of take care of themselves. So a long-winded answer, but that's what I think about life planning.
No, that's a great answer. And I think that's one of those conversations that it's like with the word that you mentioned earlier is some people hear that and they're like, oh, that's too like woo. That's too like out there. Like I want you to just help me manage my assets. And so like to me, the life piece is ever present in everything that we do. Why have we always been so long of like, well, that's a separate piece. Like we're not going to talk about it, where that actually should be the core Like, and I'm 100% in agreement of making that the core, and then everything else is actually around it. And so I love that you're bringing it all together. Tell a little bit more of like if you want to talk about the evoke process, or any of the things like the conversations, or just like what your vision is for all of it, because I think it helps people understand that like this isn't just like a very like existential conversation. Is that a piece of it? I mean, I think so. Like, why are we here? That's a pretty heady conversation, but what's your authentic self? I'm a firm believer in that. So if you could share some more of like how that process works, how those conversations are happening with your clients.
Yeah, so I'll refer everybody to the Kinder Institute website. And before I get into there are different certifications and ways of doing life planning. There's a few out there. For me, the Kinder one really resonated with me just because I got to interview him years ago. I read his books, and it all just felt authentic to me, felt natural. When I went to go through the program, I actually just was going to do the EVOKE training, which teaches you the series of meetings. So EVOKE stands for exploration, vision, obstacles, knowledge, and execution. So those are how you kind of go through the life planning process. And in each meeting, there's a different goal behind it. And when I went through the process thinking, all right, I'm not going to get the designation. I just want to learn how to do the meetings. The second day of the meeting, after experiencing it, I was like, oh, I'm in. Like, there's something special about this. So EVOKE is a series of meetings designed to help the client figure out what they really want in life and why, which leads to kind of my belief of the authentic life. Why do I think that's so important? I think a lot of financial stress and struggle and stories we carry along with us can be traced back to a lack of identity, lack of understanding who we really are. So we feel this we feel this unrest, we feel this discontent because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And we seek for happiness through buying things and pleasing people and all these other things that really are empty. And I think that if we can help people figure out who they are and what they feel like they're supposed to do, and help them make their reality, then a lot of financial stress is relieved. I think you spend less trying to impress people that aren't even paying attention to you. You can better align your dollars with your values, so you can see your money going to the things that matter the most to you. And then I also believe that when you're doing the thing that you were supposed to do, if you share this belief with me that we have unique gifts and talents that make us Kobe Bryant of our thing, then the financial side of things will take care of you. You'll be the best at what it is that you do, which will mean you can command the dollars that you need to command to live your life. And it doesn't mean everybody's going to be like a millionaire, right? Because that may not be what you need. And on the other side of that also is when you find that happiness because you're your true self, you find the happiness within and not without, then you might also realize you need a lot less money to live to be happy. There are a lot of people who don't make a lot or have a lot that are living very happy lives, and they will never not have what they need. So it's not that this necessarily means everybody makes all the money in the world. It's all about finding that true happiness that lies within by connecting to your true self, and then letting that be your guide. And I think when you do that, that's when those magical things just kind of fall into place. The doors open that you didn't see before, that you get a inheritance from that aunt that's twice removed that you didn't even know. Like these things just kind of fall into place, continuing to move you more and more closer to who you're supposed to be.
And those good things, when almost like if you start focusing and looking for the good actually starts to come to you. It's one of those. As odd as that sounds, I am a firm believer in it. And I don't even know if you know this, but I've gone through the EVOKE coursework and
I didn't know that.
And I went into it very skeptic because I was like, oh, I believe in. I've read some of George Kinder's stuff. I've met some people, and I was like, I've researched this stuff. I think I know a good bit. And then I still to this day actually know the woman that, this because of going through it. But you partner up with somebody and you have to, and I am a firm believer in this too. And this is one reason why I like my role, because I've been an advisor before, but like you can't life plan somebody until you've been life planned. And I love that thought because it's like, well, if you, Justin, if you and myself, if we haven't gone through certain things and like tried to explore those things in life, why in the hell are you going to listen to me? Like if I'm trying to help you. And so Kelly Klingeman was actually the person, I don't know if you know her, she's an advisor in Texas, but she was the person I partnered with, and it was foundational to me. And it was very interesting to me, and I think that it was a very strong like conversation that I never thought it would be the experience that I came in going, all right, is this just like some cool training? Like it's kind of expensive and it's 5 days. Like what are we going to do for 5 days? But it was extremely
It was life-changing.
It is. It was
life-changing for me. It was life-changing on two fronts. One, like just from the personal growth I had in that week, but also it changed and excited me about the next 20 years of my work. Like after coming out of EVOKE, the reason for changing the name is the work I want to do going forward is not the work I've done the last 20 years. And it's all going back to, I felt like EVOKE in that experience was the missing piece I'd been searching for about like, what's my lane? Like if you look at my career, and especially since I started my firm, like I've been wandering around, like trying different things, different niches, different content, being a chief of staff at a startup, like do all of these things. And looking back, it was just me trying to find out. Like I was really close to finding my thing. What is it? And then going through EVOKE, the process of EVOKE and the experience is what really kind of changed the direction and has me excited about the next 20, 30 years. And George Kinder will never say this, so this is my words. Yeah. And hopefully this doesn't deter people from going through the EVOKE training, because I think we'll get to the future of the profession. I think every firm will have a life planning specialist in the firm in the future. But I believe EVOKE is, and I'm going to get woo, EVOKE is the process of manifestation masked so it doesn't scare people or they don't discount it. And the reason for it is there's books that there's a, what's the name of the book? I think it's Mind. I can't remember what it is. A new book came out that there's science that shows that manifestation is real. Manifestation is not what I think most people think it is. I want something really bad, therefore I get it. That's not what it is. Unlike you, I'll read some research. I don't need research to go all in on something. If I experience it, that's all I need. It's great to have research that backs it up. For the analytical people, I don't need research. I need experience. If I experience, then therefore it's true, and I'm going to keep on going. But real quick, why I say it's manifestation, if you read about what manifestation really is, it's having a vision, a very strong vision that you believe in, because your mind scientifically can't tell the difference between a real image and one that you really hold on to. So this image can become real to your brain. Then it is putting your energy towards that. You're wanting it and moving towards it, envisioning becoming that. And then the key that most people miss is then it's taking actions towards moving towards that. And so you can't just want it. You have to want it. You have to visualize it. You do the planning part, and then you set that plan into motion and you move towards it. And I don't know if it is magical forces of the universe that makes it happen, or if it's just that once you are fixated on this thing and you begin moving towards it, you start seeing things that are aligned with that. Like it's like when you buy a new car, you rarely see that car around, and then when you buy it, you see all over the place because everywhere. Now you're more aware of it. So right. Once you have attached to this life that you feel like you're supposed to live and you want to move towards, you start seeing new paths that didn't exist before because your awareness has changed and shifted. And it's through all of those new perspectives and new experiences that ends up bringing you to that goal. So I think if we said, EVOKE is manifestation, most advisors wouldn't sign up and most clients wouldn't sign up. But if we take that name away and we trick you into doing this work, most of the time these life plans lead us to where we want to be going. Now, I don't think that the end goal we always want is where we end up, because as we go on this path, we have new experiences, we meet new people, we learn new things that begins to shift, and we have new goals that come up. But at the end of the day, I think that there's something magical about the EVOKE process, which is why I love it so much.
No, there's two things I love out of that. The one was the identity piece, where you talk about like a lot of times people they've never done the work to figure that piece out, like the identity of it and like who you are. And a big thing is we go through these life events and transitions through our life where everything changes. I mean, just from the easy example is athletics. When somebody plays a pro sport or plays even like a collegiate sport. And then it's like, all right, well, you just went from this role. Now you have to go. I mean, I know I went through that. I'm like, I have a very foundational conversation with my father about why I had to go to grad school after undergrad, because I was like, wait a second, I don't have another year of basketball. Like, whoa, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know who I am yet. And I think it's with everything. Like when you get married or you have kids or if something happens in life, you always need to be evolving and changing that. And that's why I love when you say like manifest it and it could change. That's why you have to have that conversation, or at least have someone planting that seed or at least opening that door for you. And that's why when you mention that our job as an advisor is so foundational, I am a firm believer that that is 100% true, because even if you're only doing, which I think you probably should be contacting more, but one annual meeting is required. But the thing is like you're planting a seed for so many things, and you're trying to give that direction. But no, I love that you bring that up on the evoke process and manifestation, because I think that when people start to think about that, a lot of times they haven't created that space. And I've like vividly remember my conversation when the first time I was like in a life planning experience, and it wasn't something like existential crazy. It was just like getting the space to make the decision that's important to you. And I mean, there's probably a much more eloquent way to say it, but I think you're nailing the head with how you're framing it. One thing I'll mention too, we kind of touched on it there. There's always like some misconceptions of like the human behavior side, life planning, and how it ties into financial planning. And I'd love your like thoughts on it, because that's one of those things where we even talked about it a little bit before we started recording, where sometimes people, think that this is something that's not even like part of the financial planning world, or why are you involving this conversation in there? And so I'm curious if you've had any pushback, or people question like, Justin, you're my financial advisor, like help me with like investing assets. Do you have any like good stories or experiences where somebody's come and been like, I don't need that, but like I do want this, and then they become your biggest fan? Because I've seen like that becomes the thing, is where they're like, and they come to you. What is it? Kitsis always says is like, they might come to you with like, hey, I need some help saving for retirement or a 529 plan or something. And then once you get past that, which you said something that I love, and it's like being curious to go deeper, it just opens the door. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
So I made the decision not to force any existing clients to go down the life planning process, because that's not why they came to me. I've always been transparent with my clients as I've experimented, tried new things, like this is what I'm interested in. And thankfully, they've all been very supportive. I think that comes back to like, they come first, so I take care of them, and then I do these things I'm interested in. So I told, like, they know I went through Kinder. They know what it's about. I've used Kinder's questions with them for years, even beforehand. So we've tiptoed around it, but right. I've never forced anybody down the process. I've told them, if you ever want to go, let's do it. And I'm not going to charge you what I'm charging going forward. Like, we'll just do it. Like, I want to do it with you. I want to help you. But new clients, like, the only way I'm going to work with somebody is we start with EVOKE. So that's part of the reason for the name change and changing the relationship, is to set the expectations that going forward, I know not everybody wants to have these conversations with their financial advisor, and that's cool. And I'm also not going to trick you into having it, because I want you to come to me because you've hit that point where you want to figure things out, because I think you're going to be more committed to doing it. So no one said they don't want to do it, but I've had very few clients say they want to. But I have had a client that I will say I did trick him into it. We didn't go through EVOKE all the way through, and it's been sporadic meetings on his, like, when he needs them. But basically, he is an executive in the hospital system. I always thought he'd be a CEO. And within the last year and a half or so, realized that wasn't fulfilling him anymore. And there was something else he wanted to do, getting into health tech space and consulting. And so I've been kind of coaching him and using some of the life planning principles with him. And he'll be leaving that workforce to go into his own business, consulting and health tech space, before the end of the year. He had a goal of a certain number of engagements that he had lined up by end of the year. And he is one away in February from making that happen, which that is like, to me, that's the proof of the manifestation,
Right.
is he had this vision of what he wanted and he was already embodying it. He set up the LLC and then he was doing the work to get it out there. And instead of it being in December, like by April, he might be gone. Realistically, for financial planning reasons, we don't throw the numbers out. We still do the financial planning. Sure. For financial planning reasons, later in the year probably makes more sense because of bonuses and things, but he'll have what he needs in line. And it was through this life planning process that helped him to believe in it, to have the confidence in it, to put down the work, and then begin to have the conversations, and boom, here it is. So I'm excited to see where he goes.
I love that story because it sounds, I mean, there's so many things that you've done for him over the process. And one that it makes me think of is he must have had this vision or this thought, like the world was telling him, well, you have to do this because you're doing well at this. You should stay at this job. This is what you have to do. Where at the end of the day, it's like, I don't actually like love doing that. And you've got all these talents, like you said. What are you Kobe Bryant at? Like, what are you great at that you could offer and actually be fulfilled? And that's a conversation that I would say for most people is terrifying because they're like, so you're going to tell me that I'm going to just totally leave my job? Like, anyone listening thinks through, like, go tell your partner that you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to just quit my job and do something different. I mean, even with you said that you founded the company, you were newly married, a couple kids. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to leave being the succession plan of this firm and just start my own RIA. No, I think we're good. Like, we need that. Like, let's stay there. It's terrifying. And I think that having that conversation with him is so foundational because it's hard for us almost some ways to get out of our own way. And it's really hard because it makes me think, like, with the whole identity piece is I always looked at it as you have like the world is giving you influence, the roles and the identity that you're holding on to. It's maybe you're not broadening it enough. And that's why going through those transitions are really hard because most people might tie themselves to like one identity. And us in the Western world, the first thing that someone always asks us, what do you do? So like you're so tied to that one, and it's like, you don't have to be. Why don't you do the other three things you're great at and use those skill sets? So I love that story.
You hit on something that's really important though. Like, I think a lot of people, and this goes back to the authentic life, a lot of people have taken on identities that aren't really theirs. You go through life following these paths that have been laid out for us, going to school, parents influence what you're going to be. Like, the reason I wanted to be an attorney is that's what my dad wanted to be, but he didn't. I had an uncle that was an attorney. And so like that attorney influence wasn't really mine. It was others. And not that I wouldn't have been happy, but who knows? But we take on these identities from a variety of sources that we wouldn't choose for ourselves if we were given choice. And we're not really told that we have choice. I believe we do. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean we always get it the way we want it to be, but we have way more agency over our life and the direction we're supposed to go than we're led to believe. And I think part of that process is waking up and realizing, how did I get here? Like, did I even choose this path because I wanted it or just because it was the safe path or someone told me to do? Like, how'd you get here? And I have no problem with anybody continuing down a path that's not what would probably be the most authentic to them if they released it, if they know they're doing it. I hate thinking about people going down a path that's not right for them and they're not even aware that it's not what they want. Like, they've never given the thought of, well, what would I really do if I could? And sometimes it might seem really far away, but the more you think about what it is you want to do and you begin to plan for it, you start to see ways that you can get there. And it may not be as far as ways you think. And we're also seeing a lot of people begin to realize that, yes, there's security and financial benefits of staying on a path that you're on, but sometimes the satisfaction of doing something that fulfills you is worth more than those dollars. And the final thing I'll say is, a lot of times in these stories, there are people starting a business. I don't think everybody is supposed to be a business owner. I don't think you have to go start your own thing to be living your authentic life. You can be living your authentic life within the realms of a corporation and doing different things. And sometimes career is an important part of your authentic life, but the career is the means to the end. The career is what allows you to make the money and gives you the free time to go do the thing that is actually your unique gifts and talents. So there's what's a problem for me when I think about like the self-help stuff out there, writing a book and courses and things, is I don't believe there's one path for all of us to follow. There's a unique, authentic path for all of us to follow, but you have to find it yourself.
Right.
And every answer that you will seek for that path is inside of you. And so when I think about life planning and EVOKE and what I want to do, I'm less of an advisor and more of a guide. Like, I want to help you find the answers to your life, be there to support you, crunch some numbers to show you the financial side of things so you can move that fear away, and then be there to help you move forward into it.
No, I love it. And I mean, I always use the term like Sherpa, like that's the,
exactly.
You're that guide that's going to take you there. That's going to show you, basically show you the different paths, like be that conversation that you need, the sounding board. And sometimes we need that push, or maybe we need to be like, hey, let's take a step back. Like, you've got a lot going on. Let's pause. But no, you mentioned a big part on the factor of like, is it a financial thing to start your own business or to do it like that? I think that that's huge, because we always think that it's a huge, like, it's only the financial side. But from something I've been reading a lot lately is just, and I think I guess it's probably not good, but plug in another podcast, but like, I burned through the telepathy tapes podcast because it was just like blowing my mind of just a different way of like seeing these people, the world, like all this different, the conversation, like life. It was very interesting to me. But but having that side of like researching like death and like those people that are dying, like what are their reflections of life? Or when I always tell people, interview your grandparents, like before they pass, always just ask them about stuff, like how you got to the United States, or, why did you do this? Like, you can learn so much. And one of the core things that when you've read all this stuff too, but like the things they regret is not, working too much, or not doing what I love, or not taking a risk or chance on something that I would have loved to see or do, all those things. But if you stay in a job that you hate and you're not happy, you're going to just fall right back into that trend of people. And so it kills me. Like, that's one of my biggest things is I try to tell people, like, if you want to do it, do it. Like, if it's important to you, do it, because there's no perfect time. Like, somebody that works under me they're trying to plan to have kids and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's never a perfect time. Trust me. Like, because every time you're like, oh, well, let me save this up and let me do this. And I mean, like, yes, there are some quantitative things to be prepared for. And this, you have 3. So it's like, you just like, if you want to be a parent, awesome. Your partner and spouse wants to be a parent, awesome. Go. Like, just go make that decision. So I love that you're having that conversation with them. It makes me very happy, because I agree with you. And I want to pivot to see a little bit more of what you were saying earlier. So the industry's always changing. I mean, of course, there's the tech piece that is evolving crazy fast as well. But where do you see like our industry going? Do you see it moving more where the life planning side is? Because, we've seen some behavioral finance things pop up here and there, but I feel like it's finally becoming like people are starting to see the light a little bit more. It's not just this random like academic piece, or it's just this random certification. It's a much bigger conversation of psychology and fulfillment, and like, use some of your words, like your authentic self, like your authentic journey. Where do you think we're going?
I think I do think it is in the direction of like the life planning stuff. I do think that because of technology, AI is going to be more of our friend than it is enemy, I believe. Like, I think there might be some people who will be perfectly comfortable using a bot to do their financial planning, and they were probably doing it on spreadsheets on their own anyway. I think most people want to sit across the table or sit across Zoom from another human being when it comes to their money. And I don't know if even with the robots, if they can sense, people's energy and things like that. So I think that we're going to leverage technology to do the majority of the calculation stuff. And then we'll look at it. We'll use our understanding of, financial planning strategies to make sure those are all right. But the majority of the work is going to be about helping people craft lives that they really want. Because what else are you going to do with all of your time when you have all the tools to do it for you from the technical side? So I think it's going to be less and less technical and more emotional, relationship, maybe even bringing some other things that feed into true wealth. Like I know I've friends up in Cleveland that are incorporating like life coaching and wellness coaching and all these other things in it, to be able to support the whole thing, because money is emotional and our health ties into it. And if you have a financial planning firm that is, helping make sure that you are staying healthy so you can enjoy your money and tying that into the planning and the expenses and all that, like that will be different. I think it'll be moving towards finding more value outside of numbers, for your clients. But I do think that whether it's an RLP designation or some other certificate or none, just somebody who focuses on doing this work, I think every firm is going to have a life planner on staff, if not a team. And I think that more and more of our clients, as they get wind of this type of work, are going to want it. Like they don't know they're supposed to come to us and ask for this. They don't know that we are in a unique position because of the conversations we have and understanding we have to help them really draw up the blueprint for the life that they want, or tell them or help them figure out whether or not that's real or what they need to give up to be able to make that happen. And I think that once people start talking about, yeah, my financial advisor helped me figure out how to, do this thing I've always wanted to do, and I'm happier than ever. My marriage is better than ever. Like I'm more present for my kids. People are going to want that. And I don't think that traditional planning gets you there. I think it is the life planner. It's the deeper relationship, the deeper question, giving space for the clients to figure things out, like not rushing them through their answers, just sitting there in silence until they actually say what they really feel versus saying what they think we want to hear. And who knows, maybe even in the future, financial planning firms have therapists on staff, because sometimes in the life planning process, you're going to, like, I know I'm going to come up across something that I'm not qualified to help them through, because trauma exists, and some of that trauma is an obstacle preventing them to move closer. And I'm not the person to help them with that trauma. If I had a bigger firm, it'd be really cool to say, hey, I'm going to set you up with our therapist to kind of work through that. We'll put a pause where we're at right now. And when you get on the other side of kind of understanding more about that, we can come back and keep on progressing. So I think the numbers are always going to be important. They're always going to be there. But I think more time is going to be spent on the relationships and helping people live lives they actually want to live, rather than just helping them get through life.
I think that's extremely well said. And it's one thing that's always like toyed with my brain on this side of the future of the business. And for the record, I'm in full agreement. I think that technology is going to give us more time to do this and to even have more clients to do it with. I think it's very interesting because I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion yet, which maybe I will eventually. But the adding in like the wellness piece that you mentioned, or the life coaching piece, like I think that's going to be a differentiator. Maybe some people want that additional feature.
Exactly.
And I think so I don't know where that is. But one thing that you mentioned that has always been like on my brain is you said the experience of it. And I am 100% in agreement, because until you've experienced the difference of, it's like you don't know that you have a terrible advisor, not calling any names or anything, but like you don't know that you're having a bad experience until you've experienced what it's like to have the correct and like the relationship you should be having with a planner, advisor, life planner. It's hard.
The old one may not be bad. The old one may not be bad. It's just different. Like that may be a great relationship for that type of planning, but then when you realize, like there's more that can be done, and I can rearrange my finances to align more with what I really want. Like that advisor doesn't have the skill set, doesn't want to do that. That's not their strength. And there's a different relationship. So it's not even good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah. And it might be a different stage in life too. I always, I've talked to a couple people that live in our realms of this conversation, and one of them has always, an advisor has always said to me, he's like, some of this stuff would have never been foundational to me 5 years ago, but the stage of life that I'm in now, this stuff really resonated. Like it hit me like a truck, just like, wow, I should have been doing this a long time ago. But he's like, I don't know if it would have been like a part of my life yet, because I hadn't gotten there yet. And that's why you mentioned too that you were like, I don't hit anybody in the mouth with it, which I think is great. Like you open it if it's the door, if they're ready for it, because we have to meet people where they are. But I do think, and you said you did at times, we kind of have to stealth it in at times. Like with the guy that, is the executive who's about to leave, like kind of like drop a little plant a seed in there and like ask that question or open that door for them, and then to see how they respond. Because I think that's true that sometimes you do have to stealth it in. It's, you've seen the research of like Morningstar, where what do we think is the value as an advisor versus what our clients think our value is to them. Sometimes it takes us a little time to get to where we're at the simpatico of it, because we just don't know any different. We're in the middle of a big change, and I think that it's tough for some clients to see, because they immediately think, I don't need a therapist. It's not why I'm here. You've stated it perfectly. Like that is, and that's a big thing too. That is like finding where you draw the line. Like, I don't want to, because I could do damage here instead of I'm here to help. But you make a good point. I love I love this topic too, and I firmly believe that it's going to be different in the next couple years. We're just now starting to see the consolidation, how tech is helping us do more. Like with estate plan, like this is, the attorneys, like if you're doing a normal will or trust, like revocable trust, like basic stuff, that's all tech now. Like that's part of the advisor though. They're going to the advisor for that. The tax side, same. So all those facets are covered for you. And now let's just tell it like what's important to you. Like let's open that door. So I'm in agreement with you, Justin, on that one, firmly.
That gives me confidence because I'm staking my future on it. Like, I mean, I could always go back and open up and take on traditional planning clients if I absolutely had to.
Right.
But I've just decided, all right, I'm going to ride with who I have now and keep on taking care of them. And then going forward, like the staking the future on it is the only way I'm taking on clients. I created this relationship called Align Life Plus. No one asked me for it. I'm building it in hopes that they will come, and I can wait. But it is technically, it would start off if as a new client with like a snapshot of finances. Make sure everything's in good shape. No ticking time bombs that we need to address right away. If everything's in good shape, let's pause the finance. Go into EVOKE. Let's go find the authentic life. Let's go design a plan for that. Let's set it into motion. Then we'll finish it out because the end of the EVOKE process is the financial planning part. We go back to your financial plan and reconfigure it to line up with the authentic life. And then that moves into a coaching relationship. So I hired a coach the end of last year. I meet with Phil every Thursday, and I cannot wait until Thursday at 11 o'clock every week. And I want to work with people in that capacity as well, so that the ongoing relationship going forward of the coaching, it's whatever they need that day. Maybe it's a little financial talk. Maybe it is life coaching type stuff. Maybe it's creative stuff, like whatever they need to keep on moving and evolving with their life plan. Like that's the work I want to do. I think that'll be a very, very few amount of people who want to see me every week, and that's okay. But that's what I want to do. And that ties in everything that I believe in, that the finances are still important, but it's all about the life plan. And as much as I hate the term life coach, I think of it more as a guide. Then I just continue to walk alongside them as their guide, helping them because I know how much Phil is helping me. And one of the things I'm interested to see is kind of what the reason I got tired of traditional planning is it's not very creative a lot of times. And not that it's boring, it just doesn't excite me. I am hoping and I'm thinking that the people who will work with me in Align Life Plus, their financial planning will be more creative. They'll probably be risk takers. They'll probably be people who want to start businesses and do different things just because of who I am. And I probably attract people like that. But the planning will become more creative outside the box. And I also hope that the relationship moves more towards like a sounding board of like, all right, hey, Jordan, you said you want to do this. Here's a few ways we can accomplish it. Here's what the numbers suggest. Here's what my advice is. And then what I want to bring into the planning process is what's your intuition say? Like what's your gut say? And so we've consulted the numbers, but the final deciding factor is your gut. And you have to develop that trust in your intuition to trust it. But I know that if you are really following your intuition, it's never going to steer you wrong. Again, that's the woo. There's science there to test it, but I've experienced it so much and I've witnessed it that I'm comfortable saying, all right, our plan to move forward is this thing that your gut told you to do. And then we keep on evolving and adapting as things go. So that relationship is really high touch, and I won't be able to have a lot of clients in that, which is okay. Which is why I do all of my content to try to help people who maybe don't need me in that capacity, but I can still kind of move them forward. So that's the future of my business. And we'll see in a year or two if I've pivoted back to go to traditional financial planning because that isn't wanted. But I think people want it. I think people will want it once they kind of hit that moment, and I'll be ready to roll when they are.
Well, I think you're building, part of that too is you're building the trust in themselves. So like you're building confidence in them. So like the nerdy academic, you're building self-efficacy for themselves of, well, what's your, what are you feeling there? Because, you might have already talked about their money scripts and the, money behaviors that they've already made conscious in some of those things. And so you're getting through that piece of it. And then also it's, you're not going to regret now because you took a stab at like what you felt was right. So I love that. The question I always like to end on is, it's kind of a flip on a normal question, but what is, and I'm very curious about your thoughts on this one too, but what is the worst advice that you've ever received?
The worst advice I received was from a manager that was when Roman and Leo were little. And the advice and almost like the direction from her was sacrifice when the boys are young so you can be around more when they're older. And her argument was their problems are bigger. They're going to need you more as they get older, which I don't disagree with. Yeah. But I was like, no, like why do I have to sacrifice anywhere? Like, why can't I be present now and in the future? And so I didn't listen to her, and I'm glad I didn't. I never missed any pre-graduations. I never missed any, Christmas shows. I never missed any games. I was at practices. I coached, and I'm so glad I did that. And I didn't follow that advice. And that's the old school mindset. But I don't believe you have to sacrifice. It may not be easy. You got to figure out work, but that was the worst advice. And I'm glad I didn't take it because I think I have such a good relationship with the boys because I always have been present and been around and been their biggest supporters. And they've seen me there all the time. And they've seen me continue to build and do the things I want to do as well. So
while
that's
being
the worst
present
advice
with
I
them.
got.
No, and that's good. And I am in agreement with you. And that's a great way to end us on this because it makes me think of, how I don't know who started this or where it came from, but how you get like your child and you have like how many summers you have with them. Yeah. And you've probably seen that like graphic. And I usually don't like to use like a negative frame in that stuff. I'm a lot more on like the positivity side of it. But those younger years are arguably, I agree that I don't want to sacrifice either. But those younger ones are where you're building all of the behaviors of them and you're getting to actually like, they're still malleable a little bit. Like they want
still want to be around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to hang up. Dad's cool when you're younger. Now, like they're like, stay away. Like it's like, yeah, okay. I would have more time when they're older, but now they're off with their friends and they don't want to be around. So I missed them when they were young, when they were hanging all over me. And now that I have the time, they're off or they don't want to be around me because dad's not cool anymore.
I know.
Even though I am a cool dad.
Well, you're the bridge, and I love that point, the way that you made that statement, and I think it's a great like reminder for everyone that you were like when you said that you were like bridging because we're all aware of the wealth transfer, we're all aware of like the industry changing, and so I think that you saying that like you're trying to bridge the older and the newer together to see like where the industry's going, that's a pretty insightful thing because I think that we've all seen with each generation is a little different. And when you're getting the opinion of the older generation, it's always negative. And maybe there is some things that as younger generations you have to change. I don't think that they're perfect. I'm in the younger, like the G2 coming up now. And I think that there are things from the prior generation that need to change, but there's things that I had to change too that were natural that we probably weren't doing best. So I think you're on the right track.
The truth is always in the middle. It's always in the middle.
There's nothing wrong with a fair compromise. Like there's nothing wrong with it. Or figuring out the rhythm of it. I agree with you. So Justin, how can listeners and everyone find you and the work you're doing? Because I think that some people definitely want to reach out and chat with you more.
I appreciate that. I would just send everybody to my website. It's justincastelli.io. So just first name, last name.io. And that'll take you to anything you want. My daily notes, the podcast, Life Design Plus, RLS Wealth, soon to be Santiago. Anything that I'm doing stems off that page.
I think that's perfect. And we'll add it to the show notes too. Thanks, Justin. I always enjoy our chats, man.
Appreciate it, Jordan.
Thank you for listening to the Game Film Podcast. Click the follow button to become notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.rfgadvisory.com. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It's not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Information here may be provided in part by third-party sources. These sources are generally deemed to be reliable. However, neither our guests nor RFG Advisory guarantee the accuracy of third-party sources. The views expressed here are those of our guests. They do not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, its employees, or its clients. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by RFG Advisory or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. RFG Advisory is an SEC-registered investment advisor. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of RFG by the Commission, nor does it indicate that RFG or any associated investment advisory representative has attained a particular level of skill or ability.